guys, I don't think this rationing is fair. You all know that I eat a lot, so why would you give me the same size of food as everyone else? The same size? My mom asked, confused.
Honey, you're mistaken. You weren't given the same size food as everyone.
My dad clarified. Really? So why am I so damn hungry?
Your rations are 3 times the size of everyone else's, so I can't really tell.
3 times! I compared the meal packs, and my little brother Josh was right. My meal packs were indeed 3 times as big as others. 3 times? Dad! That's so unfair! I asked for an extra pack and you refused! My sister Catherine folded her hands angrily. Well, you can have one of mine, I offered, feeling embarrassed for starting this conversation in the first place. One of yours? Catherine scoffed. You were literally just complaining that your humongous rations were not enough, and now you're trying to pretend to be nice by making an offer that we all know you can't go through with. Just trying to make me look like a bad person as usual. Please excuse me. Catherine brushed me to the side and walked into our tent. I'm so sorry for complaining and being ungrateful, Dad. I'm fine with my rations. My dad laughed.
You weren't complaining or being ungrateful, my love.
Yes, she was! Catherine screamed inside the tent. If the rations are really not filling you up, we can give you some of ours. We don't eat a lot these days anyway. My mom smiled at me. Typical! Catherine screamed again. Don't mind her. She's just jealous. I can't hear you! It's fine, Mom. It's really fine.
Whatever. Look, guys, are we still having a game night or what?
My brother asked. Thankfully, my brother ended that embarrassing discussion with his question. Catherine happily jumped out of the tent and we began having fun. We played into the wee hours of the night before rounding up and going into our different tents. Catherine was sharing a tent with me, Josh was sharing a tent with Drake, our eldest brother, and my parents were on their own, away from all the nuisance. I'd had so much fun that my bones were already really weak. I retired to my tent and tried sleeping, but my growling stomach didn't let me. I really hoped that Catherine didn't hear the embarrassing sounds that my stomach was making. That girl had not one bone of sympathy in her entire body. We'd spent 2 nights in the camp already, and to me, it felt like 2 years. I didn't tell my family though, but I had almost exhausted my food rations. There was only 1 pack remaining, and my stomach was fighting an inner battle with me. If I finish my last meal pack, then I'll starve for the rest of the day. We had 1 more day of camping before returning home, so how would I survive? Whatever! I couldn't cope anymore, so I quickly opened the last pack and finished it. Catherine may have heard me eating, but she didn't stir. After eating, I felt relieved. I closed my eyes and went to sleep, only to wake up very hungry 2 hours later. Heck, what exactly is wrong with me? I just ate a couple of hours ago and there's nothing more to eat. I need to go back to sleep. I tried sleeping, but I was just too hungry. I looked around, hoping to find and steal one of Catherine's meal packs. Being the evil sister I know, she must have kept it secret and safe from me somewhere because I couldn't find it anywhere. Well, I thought of sneaking into my brother's tent, but quickly realized that was a bad idea. They were light sleepers and would wake up immediately if I made the slightest sound. It didn't help that they were really strong, too. They'd probably knock me out before discovering that it was just their sister. That left only one option. My parents. I pulled down the zip of my tent and quietly creeped out. The stars were lighting up the sky, so it wasn't really pitch black. I could see quite clearly. I snuck into my parents' tent, trying to stay as low as possible so my siblings don't see my shadow from their tents. When I got to my parents' tent, gently pulled down their tent zip from the outside and crept in. Their remaining meal packs were littered at the edge of the tent. I took 4 packs out of the remaining 6 and tried creeping out again. Unfortunately, as I was about to take my last step before finally exiting their tent, my mom stretched her long legs while sleeping, and I stepped on it with my heavy legs, hurting her badly. She let out a scream, waking up my father instantly, but I was able to cover her mouth before she could also wake my siblings up. Chloe, What are you doing in our tent at this time of the night? She asked, out of breath. My dad observed the situation. He looked at me and noticed that I'd been trying to sneak out with 4 of their meal packs.
If you needed more food, you should have just asked. We're happy to share what we have with you. Now, you've hurt your mother.
I'm so sorry, Dad. I couldn't even look at them. I just looked at the floor. I was so embarrassed.
It's fine. Just take them and leave.
They walked out of their tent and my dad zipped it back up. Drake was standing in front of his tent. I guess he must have heard my mom scream too. I tried to speak to him, but he took one look at me and my 4 meal packs, shook his head and went back into his tent. Whatever. I took the packs back to my tent. The packs looked so tiny in comparison to mine. They were really 3 times smaller. I looked at Catherine and she was still sleeping soundly, thank God. I quickly peeled open the meal packs, finished all 4 of them, and went back to sleep feeling filled up and happy. I had absolutely no idea just how my life was going to change once I woke up. I didn't know what awaited me. Hey you! Have you liked this video already? If you haven't, please do so and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more interesting stories just like this one from us. Hurry now! I'd always been a food addict, or maybe I've just always liked food. But my relationship with food just got more unhealthy as the years went by. Honestly, I don't know. I can't trace the beginning of my food addiction and unnecessary binge eating craze, but that was who I was now. My solution to every problem was just to eat more food. Sad? Eat. Happy? Eat. Angry? Eat. Bored? Eat. I always knew that this was a terrible habit, so I've tried my best to overcome it, but it always proved impossible. It also didn't help that my best friend Martha was always buying my favorite meals for me in huge quantities because she knew that was just how I liked them. I was scared to tell her to stop because I knew that I'll regret it badly and she won't agree to resume again. I wasn't happy with my weight either, but there was no way to lose it now. I was tired of trying, so I learned to love myself just the way I was. I knew this camping trip was a terrible idea, but my parents were really looking forward to it and I didn't want to disappoint them, so I went along with it. Now, I was acting like a hungry dinosaur and everyone was giving me weird looks. At least at home, I could hide myself in my room and eat all I want. But look at me now! I woke up late in the morning and the first thing I realized was that I had nothing to eat for the whole day. Catherine would never share. My brothers needed to eat a lot and their rations were really little, and I left my parents with only 2 rations last night. Besides, I didn't think anyone would want to speak to me this morning after I hurt my mom's ankle last night. God, what do I do? I just woke up and I'm already so hungry. Stomach! Can't you behave yourself for once? After pondering over it for a few minutes, I came up with a solution. I was going to hunt. I couldn't wait for food to find me all the time. I had to go out and look for food sometimes. I picked out some of the necessary equipment and carefully snuck out of our encampment and ventured deep into the woods. After 2 hours of walking around the forest aimlessly, I realized that hunting was not as easy as was shown in the movies. I couldn't catch anything, and even when I almost did, I definitely couldn't hurt it. By this time, I was sad, tired, and even more hungry. I knew that my family would have figured out that I was missing from my tent by this time, so, feeling faint, I decided to give up and walk back to our camp. On my way back, I came across someone else's camp. There were a set of tents arranged inside, but it didn't seem like anyone was around. I snuck in and discovered a huge pot of warm food. Heaven! I dove straight into it. It was a very deep and long pot filled with food, but I managed to clear it all up in a few minutes. After eating, I couldn't move, so I just lay there and slept. When I woke up, it was dark. The campers still hadn't returned, and strange insects and animals were climbing all around my body. Freaked out that I had slept for so long, I quickly jumped up and tried to find my way back to our campsite, but it was dark and I couldn't see clearly. I ended up slipping and falling over a cliff. while hanging onto a branch on the cliff for dear life. The campers that owned the food returned and saw me hanging on a cliff and screaming for help. They hardly started trying to help me, but when they noticed that their food supply had been cleaned out, a man stopped the others.
Stop helping that freak. She got exactly what was coming for her.
Huh? A lady asked. She could die down there.
Exactly. And we will die right now if we don't find something to eat. That human cleaned out our food supply for the week.
What? The lady and the others quickly withdrew the rope that they had previously stretched out. I was doomed. They packed up their stuff and changed locations, abandoning me to my fate. After hanging onto the branch for a long time, I couldn't take my weight any longer. It gave out, and I fell down the cliff, sustaining terrible injuries in the process. I spent a few hours on the floor, suspended in a strange position and unable to move. I suspected that all my bones were broken, but I kept groaning in hopes that someone would find and save me. I was almost passing out when I heard something that sounded like Catherine's voice, so I groaned louder. Oh my God! Chloe! When I saw the flashlights pointing at me and realized that they'd finally found me, I passed out. It took 5 good months for all my bones to heal totally. I hadn't been eating anything solid at all this time because my nose, chin, cheek, and jawbones had broken and were being worked on, so I practically lost all my weight. I was so little now, less than a quarter of my previous size. I was also so pretty now, so much so that my glow almost blinded me. I looked healthier, and I was happy that one good thing had come out of my eating addiction. I vowed to change my life forever. I'd stop eating nonsense and exercise more frequently. Life changed for me, and I became more popular in school. I even started dating a new hot guy. I noticed something eerily strange, though. Whenever I was sad or complained about being dissatisfied with something, my best friend Martha tried to calm me down by giving me something huge to eat. Whenever I refused, she got very angry and tried to force me to eat, storming out cursing whenever I still refused. It got even worse, and I noticed that Martha was trying to turn me into who I was before. I decided to confront her about it, and her reply astounded me. I am only trying to make you who you were always meant to be. A fat, stupid idiot. It worked when we were younger, and it's been working all these years. Why are you looking at me with that hurt face? Yes, I'm responsible for your eating addiction, and I'm the one who has kept it going all these years, never letting you heal no matter how hard you tried. I became your best friend so I could destroy you. Who are you to compete with me? You lose weight, and the first thing you do is date the one guy that I've been crushing on for years. You've been crushing on Jake. Seriously? But you have 2 boyfriends already. And so what? Every guy I want is mine. I stormed out of school and went back home to cry in my room. I couldn't believe it. Martha had been so strategic with everything. I thought she cared for me, but she'd always been with me in my times of despair to make sure my terrible addiction continued. It hurt so much. I'd lost the only person I thought was my best friend, and I realized that I never had a best friend to begin with, all on the same day. I had to disassociate myself from everything that had to do with Martha. I avoided her and kept on working towards being the best Chloe I could possibly be. I ate healthy, worked out, frequented sports events, read books, stayed wary of friends, and learned to appreciate my family more. Because no matter what weird way they expressed their love, they loved me more than anything in the world. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please tell us if you've ever experienced something like this in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.